Hi.
Hi,
Hi. So good to see you.
nice to see you.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good too.
What time is it now in India? It's late already, isn't it?
It's 7:30 p.m. here,
Okay,
and it's around 4 there.
it's 4 in Germany now.
Uh-huh. All right.
So we have a rainy afternoon with occasional sunshine.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it's super hot
Mhm.
in India.
It's hot.
So we're
Okay,
hoping for some rains. I think we'll just begin.
yes.
Yeah. So before we start, I'll just like to request everybody to keep themselves on mute and keep their videos off, just to be respectful to our speaker here. And if you have any questions during our conversation, please type them up in the chat on the side, and we'll take them in the end of our conversation in the last 5 minutes. So thanks so much. Let's just begin. I'll start by introducing myself. So I am Swarai Singhani. I am the co-founder of Xeno Co-lab, which is a service design consultancy based in Pune. We design human-centered products, services, and experiences for global clients. And this session is conducted in collaboration with SDN India and is a part of a series called Service Design Halftime, which is basically a series of conversations that we've been having this month with service design practitioners from all over the world to understand their challenges and journey with service design. So for this session, we have with us Birgit Mager, who's the president and co-founder of the International Service Design Network. And so happy to see you again and have you here.
Well, I'm very happy to be with you. There is a nice movement in India now around service design, and I really hope that it will get really strong.
Yes, we hope so too, which is also a part of the reason why we're having this series. So Service Design Network has been around since 2004, I believe, and is a strong community of practitioners dedicated in developing the field through publications such as Touchpoint. If people have not heard of it, I highly recommend going up and searching for it online or downloading it. Yeah, that is what it looks like. It's super powerful publication. We've contributed to it ourselves, and also events and partnerships. So events such as Service Design Network Global Conference that is hosted by the network once every year, and I myself have been fortunate enough to attend one of those in 2016, I believe, when it was hosted in Amsterdam. So I was attending with Stefan Moritz, who's my colleague, and Lizzie from Veride. And it is such a melting pot of global practitioners and such an inspiring environment to be it. Like I still remember it so vividly. So I would just like you to start by talking about the journey map of service design that you described in that conference, because I think it was the first time that I had heard of how it had started in 1995, and brought like such perspective on how it's evolved. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about that, about the journey map of service design, and also how does SDN fit into it?
Okay, great. Yeah, lovely. I'm happy to talk about the journey map of service design. Um, Service design emerged in the early 90s in Europe, and it was the reaction of the design community to changing economies and changing society. The service economy was showing little seeds already, and the marketing community had started to talk about service marketing. So Mary Jo Bittner, for example, was one of the lead figures there. And the design community had already started to talk about interface design and interaction design. So they were moving away from the material products into the world of experiences. And then in the early 90s, the founding dean of the design department at the Technological University in Cologne said, for the future, designers should not be focused on one discipline. They should not be graphic designers or product designers or interface designers. They should be the people that are able to look at the problems of this world in a holistic way, and then apply the tools that are appropriate to solving these problems. And so he was the first person ever as a founding dean of my institute to bring this holistic education into the world of design, the integrated design. And in that process, he defined different fields of expertise, and one of those was service design. There were other fields that were really quite innovative, like gender and design, or manufacturing and design, so design and economy. So that were disciplines that were not existing at that point. And I was just one part of these 12 different areas of expertise. And service design, I would say, was the newest. It was very, very exotic. People asked me, service design, what is that? So it was just totally out of imagination. And I had then the chance to experiment with the students a lot, creating project challenges myself. I think a very famous project is the project on homelessness. I'm not going to go into detail, but the students really created, through the design lens, a new service for homeless people that was implemented in Cologne and is still working. So we figured out, how can we apply design process and methodologies to immaterial products, to services. And we found that many things that designers were doing would just match one-to-one. But then, of course, there were other things that were challenges. Suddenly you were working with complex systems, with living systems, with many, many different stakeholders that were involved in the production of these services, these experiences. You had to understand the politics of organizations. You had to understand the processes of organizational change it needs to really focus on user needs. And so many new things also came into the field of service design. So throughout the first 5 years, we experimented, we connected to organizations, big organizations in Germany, invited me to work with them. Then I would say in the early 2000s, suddenly we started to become more professional. It was no longer like experimentation. We started to talk about definitions, about processes, about methodologies, about frameworks. And so service design started to arrive in the world of discipline and undisciplined discipline. We had the definitions, and that was the thing where the service design network started to come into existence. I connected to 2 companies in London, Engine Livework, and another one that was called Spirit of Creation. And we figured out that there were already universities that shifted from interface and interaction design to service design. It was Politecnico Milano, it was Linköping University in Sweden, it was Carnegie Mellon University, it was the IIT in Chicago. So we reached out to these people, and we started to connect them and create the first manifesto of service design. We said, service design will save the world. Service design is going to create better quality for human beings through services. And we created the first definition, and we started to do collaborative research projects on the global scale. And that was a really interesting time. The Design Council in the UK started to put service design on their agenda. They started to put funding into service design projects. That was really important. So I would say in that time, the foundation of service design was built. And then in 2008, Shelley Evanson, at that time teaching service design at the Carnegie Mellon University, and I decided to open the service design network for the world. So whoever was interested in the topics could join. And we were positively surprised how many people joined our network. And we did the first global service design network conference in Amsterdam, but it was not the one that you joined. It was the one in 2008. Were you born then? Yes, you were. But so we had the very first global service design conference in Amsterdam in 2008. And imagine, already 230 people joined. That was quite a lot of people coming from all over the world.
Yeah.
And then from then on, every year we had a conference, and in 2009 we started to publish touch points 3 times a year, because we felt it needs some tangible output from all that research and all that practitioner that we are doing, and the tangibility in that at that time was really so quite important to give our members something that they could show to people and say, hey, look at this. This is what service design is doing. Yeah, and so now I would say we are almost in a phase where service design is the new normal. I think so many companies already have service design teams or service design departments. I see so many people who show me their service design business cards. Just now in Ireland, the government has said that service design is the most important design discipline for innovation. In Norway, the government put 30 million euro into public service design. So when you look at it, it's all over the place. And I'm really happy when I see that. It seems that it's a bit of my baby. I mean, many people have brought this child up, but it still feels that almost half of my life I have spent with service design. And yeah, I'm really happy to see where it has gone.
Yeah, it's always so amazing to listen to this journey and then appreciate where we are at now. So the follow-up question I have for that is that you described how service design, especially in Europe and the US, has become the new normal, whereas in India, as much like in other countries, it's still called as exotic, like you described it.
Yeah.
In earlier stages. So what are some of the challenges that you would face then when it is exotic or when you're experimenting with it, and what do you think helped you in building that trust with government or your clients to take it to the next level and make it the new normal?
That's a very good question. I think we have a broad spectrum of very mature service design regions and rather sparking service design regions where it's just coming on the agenda. And India definitely belongs to the young service design environment. Yeah, I think it is important to learn from the experiences that the more mature service design communities have had, bad experiences, things that failed, but also the things that were successful. I definitely believe the community is very important. A network like yours and like the Service Design Network India, and I'm very happy to see that Vidya from the Service Design Network India is here. So communities that start having service design events all over the place, and it can be small events like service design drinks, it can be national conferences, it can be book clubs, it can be all kinds of things where you share and you visit companies that have done service design projects and have them talk about their success stories. So having these micro events is something that really helps to raise awareness and interest in service design. Also, I think the community is super important for shared learning. I'm not sure in how far in India you are working with Slack, but I'm sure you have other channels that you use to bring people together on the Slack channel for service design. The community is really supporting each other, sharing knowledge, sharing cases, and cases is something that I personally find very, very important, and especially those cases that have been implemented and where the success of the service design practice has been measured. At the Service Design Network, we have a website, servicedesignNetwork.org, and there under the category of learning, you find, among other things, the case library. And the case library is really important because it helps you to understand how have other people approached projects. We also have a lot of projects there that have been awarded through the Service Design Award. And the Service Design Award is given to projects that have been implemented and where the success has been measured. And I think if you want to grow service design in a new environment, these cases with the success measures are something that really makes the business people think. You know, the business people are not so super interested in, oh, understand the user, that is nice. No, they want to know what's the profit it brings or the benefit it brings, not only to the user, but to the organization. And so in that case, cases really help. So as I said, community, events, cases, start to initiate platforms where you can publish the stuff that you're doing, and yeah, but especially try to create successful cases and connect those and share those with the broad community. The Chinese service design community is older than the Indian one, but still young. What they did a couple of years ago, they took touchpoint content and translated it into Chinese, because that is another thing. For many countries, English is okay, but it's not their native language. So producing content in your native language is super important, and that can be your own content, but it can also translating things that have been done in the global community. We have done an impact report on public sector, an impact report on health sector. All these things have been translated in Japan, in China, and I think that is really important to create content in your language. And it's not only the language of, speaking Chinese or Japanese or whatever. It is about translating also the concept into your cultural language. And I think in India, as in many other countries all over the world, design is still perceived as the discipline that is for styling and beautification of material aspects. So the idea of applying design to services and to interactions is not yet really rooted in the system. So you have to find your own way of connecting service design as a framework and as an idea to the needs and to the conversations in your culture. I remember that in China, a company called China Bridge, they translated the service design process into something that really relates to an ancient Chinese symbol. And having that symbol that everybody knows, and then putting the service design framework around it really helped many people say, that is what it is about.
Yes, I think they presented it in the 2016 conference, and I remember it so vividly.
Yeah.
That it was such a great translation of the method and the process into something that is so culturally relevant that it becomes more powerful.
Yeah, that exactly. It was 2016 in Amsterdam when Kathy was on stage and presented how they worked with the garbage company. I think it was a big thing about garbage and how they put service design into that tiny symbol. Quite impressive.
Yes, for everybody who's on this call, maybe we can find a link. You can find it on YouTube. If you look for the Service Design Global Conference 2016 and China Bridge, it was the presentation by China Bridge.
Yes, right.
So we had also spoken very briefly about the survey that you had done earlier this year around the future of service design and the 8 topics that have emerged out of it. And I believe that the publication is going to be released in July. Could you talk to us a little bit about that? What were the 8 topics that emerged as the future of service design?
Well, I'm happy to. I might not cover all 8 of them because I want to keep some suspense for the publication, but I'm happy to talk about the story of that publication. As some of you might know, I celebrated my 25th anniversary as a professor for service design this year. And when I was kind of like preparing for the celebration, I thought, it's not so interesting to talk about 25 years of history of service design. It's much more interesting to use this as an opportunity to talk about the future. So I started to do a three-sider survey, which is an online survey, and distributed that throughout the global service design, first through a network of experts. So I invited about 120 experts to put on the three-sider survey their thoughts about what are the future challenges for service design. So out of that, we condensed a certain amount of provocative topics and then released that to the global service design community, again collecting their comments. And digesting all that, in the end, we came up. somebody can give me a sign if you still hear me. Ah, Swa is still there. I see. Okay. So one super important topic is service design and ethics. And we had already discussed that January, March, saying that service design is a deeply human discipline, and we are connecting to so many human challenges, and we have to put the ethical standards of our discipline on the top of our agenda, and that is social injustice, it's gender inequality, it is power dynamics, plus. So many things in what we do relates to the ethics of the world. And then suddenly came the Black Lives Matter movement, and so there we realized in the conversation about ethics that, in a sense, design and service design are very much rooted in the white middle class of academics in the industrialized nations. And that's maybe also a challenge to see that in India, you are just, being this tiger state and you are developing very fast out of that. But service design comes late because it has been rooted in the white middle class academics in the industrialized nations. And with the Black Lives Matter movement, we are now focusing much more on the question of how can we bring social justice and inclusion into the world through our service design approach. So we are putting that on the top of the agenda, and I still believe there's a lot of work to be done. The Service Design Network is just now setting up an advisory board that will help to reflect the organization of the Service Design Network and the practice of service design through the lens of racial discrimination and social justice. And I think in India, these topics are very, very relevant. They are different from Black Lives Matter, but they are there. And we as service designers have to be very, very conscious and cautious about helping to solve these problems. So service design and ethics is one of the topics for the future. Another one that is just equally important is service design and sustainability. In the early times of service design, I just believed service design is sustainable because we are transforming material products into immaterial services. We are pushing the sharing economy. We are cradle to cradle. So that is on our agenda. But you have to look at that very, very carefully. Are the services that we are creating really sustainable? How many energy are we eating through streaming platforms? How much burden are we putting on the environment through the things that we are creating? So I think the service design community of the future will have to put that much more openly into the conversation and to reflect it much more critically. And let me pick one more. Service design and business. I think throughout the last years already, service design has moved from the front stage to the backstage. In the very early times, service design was perceived more as a practice that was doing projects in order to create better user experiences and to innovate service offerings that would be valuable. But then we realized, of course, that if you want to innovate the front stage and if you want to create better value for the end user, you have to look at the backstage, because often processes, structures, culture has to be changed if you want to change the front stage. And from there, the move to the boardroom, to the C-level, was just like, a little bit away. And now service design is very often perceived as a strategic approach to create a culture of collaboration and innovation that provides value to stakeholders. But in order to really fulfill the requirements that we as service designers have to fulfill if we want to make that C-level shift, we have to also learn to regard our clients as users. We have to learn to speak the language of our clients and understand what are their issues. We cannot only be the advocates of the end user, we have to be also the advocates of our clients, helping them to transform their thinking, but through using their language. And that is a big challenge that we as service designers are facing, because it also affects education. We have to create educational systems that empower young designers, young service designers, to think about strategies, about business models, who are then able to correlate service design to other approaches like organizational change, like agile, like sprint. So we have to have the bigger picture of what is happening in organizations in order to help them to implement service design in a valuable way. So those are 3.5 out of 8. It's about ethics, it's about sustainability, it's about business, and it's about education. The publication on the future of service design will be released towards the end of July. It will be available as downloads through the SDN, but also through my university, the Crown International School of Design. So please just connect to the SDN community, become a member for free. I mean, we also appreciate paying members, but there is a free membership that will enable you to receive the newsletter, the Insider, and through the Insider you regularly are informed about publications, events, conferences. So yeah, it would be nice if you would join in. But also connect to the SDN India chapter. Maybe we can share in the chat the link to the SDN India chapter, because there you will get all the information related to events in India.
I just wanted to check in really quickly. Do you have 10 more minutes to spare to take in questions from the audience? Okay, so I think now is a good time for everyone to type their questions in the chat. I, unfortunately, have lost the chats. If anybody had written questions previously, I don't see them now. So if you could just type them again. So Birgit can answer those questions.
Yeah, I see the link for the India chapter right now. That's great.
Yes.
So I would encourage you to join forces, and maybe you can set up a national conference within the next 2 or 3 years, and invite all those people in India who are interested in service design. I'm sure it's a lot, and I think it's already a lot of cases that you have produced that you could be sharing on such a conference. And the SDN, the Service Design Network, is happy to support these kind of activities.
Yes, that is the hope and the dream. So that is where we aim to be as well. So let's see. That is what we're working towards. So hopefully we can.
Yeah, and if you want to practice service design conferencing, we will be holding our Service Design Global Conference 2020 virtually this year. So it will be on October 22nd and 23rd. It's going to be a really huge program that adapts to the time zones all over the world, and that is really the advantage of a virtual conference. You don't have to travel to any city, you don't have to pay for the flight, for the accommodation. You are not restricted to time zones, so we will have a really huge global virtual event in October 22nd, 23rd. I don't have the link right here. Yeah, but maybe Vidya, if you are fast and you could post the link to the global conference, that would be great.
Yes. Or Nikita, if you can do that, that would be great. Yeah.
I see. There's a webinar in August. Great. Yeah. So thank you, Birgit. I'm curious if you have a favorite book related to service design. If you could... Well, that's a difficult question. I do have, of course, a couple of favorite books. Some of them I wrote myself, but most of them are in German. I think the most relevant book, if you are new to service design, is This is Service Design Doing. It has been published 2 years ago, and it's a great resource of the overarching mindsets, the process, the methods. It is enriched through digital content that you can download on the platform. And Adam Lawrence and his team also hold online meetups and workshops for around This is Service Design Doing. So that I can definitely recommend. I am writing on a book on service design right now, and it will be published early 2021, but I hope by then you will already be experts and writing your own books.
While we wait for other questions, I had another question in mind. So with all of the things that you mentioned about the future of service design, what qualities or mindsets do you think service designers need to adopt or develop for themselves for what the future is going to be? Especially when we're talking about such big social challenges like gender inequality or inclusiveness, when we talk about Black Lives Matter or other issues that are coming up globally. So what mindsets or tool sets do you think service designers need to include now?
Well, I think the service design approach as it is a really strong muscle. It's a really strong muscle for change. If you take it seriously as something that is not only applied to incremental, small interface changes, then you have the approach of human-centeredness, that in every project you do, it's about the human. And no matter if it's about digitization, if it's about AI, if it is about IoT, it is always the question, how do we create value for humans? And those humans can be the end users, but those humans can also be the employees. And the human approach is also always inclusive. We just have to be more and more aware of that. The other thing is the holistic approach of service design, that you do not have that narrow look at a tiny bit of experience, but that you always try to understand what is the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture that the things are embedded in? And how does that bigger picture influence the work that I am doing, and how can I make sure to create value within that bigger picture and not just for a tiny little piece of the pie? In that sense, the interdisciplinarity is a super strong force, thinking about that we are not the genius, we are not the ones who will solve the problems of the world, but we can bring together the right people and help them to have conversations that are very fruitful and inspiring through visualization, through translating complexity into shared understanding, supported by visuals. I think there the design has a strong power to create a new understanding that breaks through borders. Borders of departments, but also borders of cultures and borders of races.
Mm-hmm. We have two very great questions here. So Hamid says, what is your take on 5 main tasks of a service designer in practice? It helps those who do not know about it to adjust expectations. So
I have to say, I would hesitate to answer that question now, because this is basically the starting point for a service design seminar or a workshop. I do not want to answer it superficially now and then create misunderstandings. So I would really, really recommend, if you are interested in that and if you are new to the discipline, read the book, This is Service Design Doing, join the webinars that SDN India is holding in the first week of August to understand what does the service design mean, and yeah, just connect to the service design network with all the resources. We have case studies, and we are now building the Service Design Network Academy that will offer a lot of live service design workshops and seminars, and also on-demand courses. And there I think we can answer that kind of question much more substantially. And some of the things that I find important, I have already said: be interdisciplinary, be holistic, be human-centered, visualize, prototype. But I think these are just words. If you want to really understand it, it takes more time.
And the next question is from Janvi, who says, businesses in India don't always understand or value service design. How would you recommend us as service designers to sell ourselves to clients who don't necessarily think that they need it?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, through cases and success stories of cases with measures, because numbers is something that business wants to hear. Ideal case, those were cases from India. But you can also use cases from Asia or from all over the world. I would definitely think that you need to connect the word service design to words that are maybe more rooted in the Indian society, because if you have something that is new, service, design, it's a lot of confusion. But if you then say, okay, design also in India has always done things to make products more successful. You have some examples for that. And you can say services are a huge part of the Indian economy. They are. So what if we connect the power of design with the economic growth of services. And we help you to innovate in a way that users are getting valuable outcomes. So you have to find your own narrative, your own story, but connect the wording to things that are understood and rooted in that. I think our time is up. I'm run. I don't want to hurry you, but I have another appointment. I'm still teaching. We are still in the middle of the term.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out for this. We really, really appreciate it. And we hope that we can collaborate again soon on such similar initiatives. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and for all your great questions. We'll record the session and have them up on YouTube and maybe Spotify and also on channels for SDN Network. So we hope that we can all connect offline as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Take good care. Great evening.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.